What's up, Fuzzballs? It's the Fantastic Fuzz again, coming at you with another video. And today I wanted to talk to you about a TV show that I've been watching about 4 years now. America's Got Talent. Now, a little bit of background first. I started watching AGT about around season 11, sort of as a filler show because I miss Dancing with the Stars. They did 2 seasons of that a year, one in wintertime, one in fall. So I needed something to get me through the summer. And AGT fit the bill. But what I really want to do today is give you my top 10 acts from season 14. Now, just a disclaimer, those of you who do watch the show, I'm not going to be including any of the Golden Buzzer acts. And not that I don't think they're great, they're awesome. But I just feel that these other acts deserve some love. And also, I'm not actually going to be including any photos or videos on this video for 2 reasons. One, I don't really know what the copyrights are. And 2, I'm still a little new to YouTube. This is only my 3rd video. So I really don't know how to do it yet, but I promise you in future videos, when I figure it out, I will try my darndest to do it. And I'll also be including the links to the videos, though, in the corner there. So if you want to watch the videos, just click on those. I'll also put them down in the description, make it a little bit easier, and you can just enjoy the awesomeness that was these acts. So anyway, let's get into the top 10. Now, starting with number 10, Ben Trigger. He's a dancer from Brisbane, Australia. Now, to tell you the truth, he kind of reminded me of that old Chris Farley Saturday Night Live sketch he did with Patrick Swayze, where they're both auditioning for Chip and Dale's. And not to say he wasn't a really good dancer. I mean, he was not so bad. But I think it was a little more comedic than serious. I don't know. But he was really funny. He was having the time of his life. But then, what should happen? He goes to do a move, and it requires him to bend over backwards over the judge's table. And what should be right behind him but the golden buzzer? A historic golden buzzer. It's the first time a contestant has ever pressed the golden buzzer for themselves. Now, I know I told you guys I wouldn't be including golden buzzers, but since technically that didn't count, it's not really a golden buzzer act. Although he did get 4 yeses, so good on you, Ben. And number 9, Greg Morton. Now, this guy was the first act to come out. He was on the first episode of this whole season, and he comes out and does these weird voices. He does the whole Star Wars original trilogy in voices. He does Luke Skywalker, he does Darth Vader, what else did he do? C-3PO, R2-D2. He did all the X-Wing pilots. He did the X-Wings. He did lightsabers. And finally, the coup de grace, he does Chewbacca. Now, anybody who can do Chewbacca, in my book, you gotta respect him. You gotta give the guy respect. Anyway, number 8 is the Inlavu Youth Choir. These guys come all the way from Limpopo, South Africa. And they live in an area that is just overrun with poverty. Us in the Western world, we don't really understand poverty, I don't think, the way these kids do. Because to us, poverty is just some bum on the side of the road who we toss $5 to. To them, it's all day, every day, 24/7, 365. It's everywhere. I mean, one of the young men has had to take care of his family since his father passed away 2 years ago. One of the young ladies said she was so unhappy that she never smiled. And that's just, it's tragic what these kids have to live in. But this choir has given them something to believe in, something to focus on, something positive in their lives. And you could just see the joy on their face as they sang that song, My African Dream. That song was just beautiful. And there's a line in it that talks about, in my African dream, there's a new tomorrow. I mean, that's what they need. That's what they need. A new tomorrow, a new horizon to look to. And realize that just because they were born into poverty, like their choir director says, doesn't mean they are poverty. I mean, just chew on that. Number 7 is V Unbeatable. Now here we have another group that grew up in poverty. Only instead of in South Africa, they're from Mumbai, India. And most of them live in, let's just call them what they are, the slums. They're crowded, they're unsanitary, and you have to realize that in India, the populations are so huge that the poor just are living on top of one another. And then you got this group of kids, though, who get their escape is dance. Now, I watched World of Dance, and I saw a dance group called The Kings, who were also from Mumbai, and they actually won their show. And I think if V Unbeatable can do as well as they did, they could go further than anyone on that show. I mean, they did the gravity-defying move where they toss the one kid up in the air and that other kid jumps off his back and all that. And then they did the thing with the bamboo poles. That was really cool. And just that Bollywood hip-hop style, it is just the coolest thing ever. And then at number 6, we've got Mackenzie. Now, here's a guy, he grew up on a farm in South Carolina, and he sang to cows when he was a kid. And then he wants to go to college. It's not really on his radar, but he gets into a school in Boston that teaches music, performing arts. And he only goes for 2 semesters and then has to drop out. Why? Because he doesn't have enough money to stay. I mean, that's not a unique story, but it's still tragic nonetheless. However, he did meet a very special woman there named Denise. And just to hear him talk about her and how she's inspired him, and then to hear him sing that Prince song, Nothing Compares to You. I mean, when you have a support system like that, you can nail your act. I've heard lots of people sing Prince songs, but not really that many people can sing it and own it the way he did. And how he said it was like no one had ever sung the song before. And it was. And just to see him and his wife on stage afterward, I mean, that brought the whole thing full circle. Because when you have someone supporting you, it's the greatest feeling in the world. I mean. And then, number 5, Barry Wham. I probably mispronounced that name. I'm sorry, but they're a hip hop group from France. Not really a hip hop group, a beatbox group. And I've heard beatbox groups on the show before, but what they did was, as Howie said, put a lot of beatbox DJs out of business. And just to hear everything they do with their voices. I mean, doing one song is hard enough. They changed the song like 2 or 3 times. and it's just their voices and the microphones. I mean, what more do you want? I want to go to whatever club they're performing at. That would be a happening place. And then number 4, G-Force. Now, I'm going to start by saying, asking a question. Besides me, did anyone think Spice Girls when they saw this group? I mean, they are like preteen Spice Girls. They've even got those cute nicknames. There's Zen G and OG, Boss G, Speedy G, and Hype G. I mean, they're basically the rebirth of the Spice Girls. And I was a kid during the girl power movement. I was there for Britney and Christina and Mandy Moore and the Spice Girls, of course. But I think the whole thing went over my head back then. But nowadays, when you've got women in the United States who feel like they're being sort of left behind by modern society, sort of still not being treated equally, even though the law says they're equal, you need to bring back girl power. You need to bring female empowerment to the forefront. I mean, I don't want to get too into it, but women need to feel confident, need to feel that they are strong, powerful, beautiful, and just everything that they are and have it within themselves to be. And these girls just embodied that, I think. And also, none of them are over 13, so they're really making a statement. And then number 3 is Sauce, and that's SOS, Sauce. He's a magician, and he is also the son of Sauce and Victoria, who were on the show a couple of years ago. I saw them; they were pretty good, but his act was way better for a few reasons. First of all, I love card tricks, and when you can just shoot them out of your hands as rapidly as he's doing, you've got my attention right then and there. And then he made miniature cards appear, then he made real big cards appear. But he's doing this whole thing to the song Bleed It Out by Linkin Park. I've been a Linkin Park fan since I was 13. And anybody who doesn't act to a Linkin Park song, especially a Magic act, you got my respect, man. You've got my respect. And number 2 is actually a 2-parter. It's first one is Ryan Niemiller. Now, this guy is a stand-up comedian with a birth defect in his arms. I mean, literally, they stop right here. He's got 3 fingers on this arm and 2 on this arm, and they're connected. I mean, he obviously had a hard life growing up and was probably very self-conscious about what happened to him. But he found that the best way to cope with that was to point it out before anyone else noticed. And that's what makes a good comedian. If you have a problem, you point it out before someone else does, and suddenly they're on board with you. They ease up around you, and then you can just things cannot be weird. And then his jokes are just hilarious. I mean, he talks about juggling chainsaws once and quitting because he couldn't handle the politics. He talks about wanting to be a professional wrestler and calling himself the Cripple Threat. It's a clever name, I will admit. And then he tells that story, though, about that little girl screaming when she sees his arms. Now, under most circumstances, that would be a very tragic story, but he turns it into a funny story because he's invented a new game that he's pretending to discover them for the first time himself when the kids stare at his arms. I mean, that's just ingenious and just shows what kind of person he truly is. But also at number 2 is Jackie Fabulous. This woman, I respect her for the simple reason that she left a job of being a lawyer to become a stand-up comic. I mean, that is a huge leap of faith. You go from having a steady, well-paying job practicing law to being a performer and not really having a steady paycheck, not having steady work. I mean, that takes a lot of faith. And then she tells that story about her mother coming to Los Angeles to see her and calling her fat. I mean, that's one thing only your mom can say and it not be offensive. And then she also talks about how she hates The Biggest Loser. I mean, I don't really much care for The Biggest Loser anymore. I didn't even realize it had been canceled until, well, after it got canceled. But just to hear her make fun of it she basically calls it fat shaming, is what it is. We're gonna basically make you stand naked on a cattle scale and weigh you in front of the entire country. I mean, what is that but fat shaming? I mean, no wonder the show got canceled. I mean, really. Now, before I do number 1, though, I'm going to do a few honorable mentions. I've only got 3 of them here, and they didn't make the top 10, but I think they deserve a mention anyway. First one is Jonathan Burns. This dude is a contortionist, and he is totally a geek. I mean, I don't mean that as an insult. It is the ultimate compliment. Julianne described him as Napoleon Dynamite. He's Napoleon Dynamite, I think, meets Magic Mike. He took off his whole outfit and then ended by taking off his underwear without taking off his shorts. So he kept it family friendly, I suppose. But really, he arrived in a suitcase. Literally, folded up in a suitcase. He opened up the suitcase and got out. I mean, really, what else can you say? The next one is Patrizio Ratto. I probably mispronounced his last name, but he's a classical piano player. And he comes out all dressed up in his suit and tie, ready to perform, and he gets on the piano and starts playing. I don't know if that was Beethoven, Mozart. I don't know what that was. And then suddenly, about 3 seconds into the song, he suddenly does this weird robotic thing with his hand, and it goes to a shot of Julianne and Simon, who are just in shock. They're like, ugh. And then he gets up and does this really robotic-like dance. Now, the acts I really like are those that surprise you. And his really surprised me because he said he was going to be playing classical piano and all that. And he does, but then he adds that little twist. I mean, it just made it that much better. And the third one is Light Balance Kids. Now, I watched the original Light Balance. Both groups are from Ukraine. And anybody who's been paying attention to national news lately knows that Ukraine's in a bad way. That's the nicest way I can put it. There's a lot of strife there. There's a lot of chaos there, and families have been separated. There's just destruction and mayhem, and it's not a happy place to be. But one of the guys from Light Balance decides that he wants to give the kids something to work with. And the kids say, well, we want to do what Light Balance does. So what do? They form Light Balance Kids. And just to let you guys know, those of you who don't know, Light Balance is a dance crew. But the way they do it is they do it against a backdrop, a blacked out backdrop, and their costumes actually have LED light tubes all over them. So you don't actually see their faces, you see what are basically LED outlines of their bodies, or whatever character they're playing. And this one happened to be Iron Man themed. I mean, you get a bunch of kids and put them in Iron Man suits, suddenly they feel like the coolest people alive. And the kids were really, really good. I mean, they were so good that Simon and Gabrielle Union both said that they didn't think most of them were real. Because 4 kids came out to begin with to introduce the group, and then they went backstage, and all the dancing and the show happened, and then they all took their helmets off at the end and revealed that it was about 8 or 9 kids up on stage. And that just showed how great they were. I mean, they were just absolutely amazing. But getting back to the top 10. Number 1. Mr. Robert Finley. Now, this man is 65 years old. He has fought in the Vietnam War, worked as a carpenter most of his life, grew up on a farm because his dad was a sharecropper. I mean, this man has lived a very hard-knock life, and you could hear it when he sings. He sings bluesy songs, and I love the blues. I mean, I guess most people do. But his song, Get It While You Can, I have probably listened to that song on repeat, I don't know, 3 times already since Tuesday, and I even started singing it to myself. I mean, he just has that voice that reminds you of those older black gentlemen from movies that they play guitar and they sing the blues all day long. They're usually retired. They've seen a lot in their lives. And they are just the coolest people you will ever meet. And I guarantee you for, I don't know, probably about however long he was on screen, I think it was about 9 or 10 minutes, he was the coolest man alive. And Howie said that he had a voice that you don't get as a 20-year-old or a kid. And that's true. And you gotta understand, this man is almost completely blind. And he said the most astonishing thing. He said that he had to lose his physical eyesight to see his true destiny. I mean, that's deep. And it's usually in adversity that we find our true selves. I believe that, and it's clear that Mr. Finley believes that, and I guarantee you, he is going to go far in this competition. Mark my words. And that's my top 10 AGT acts. Hope you guys enjoyed them, and watch the videos. I'll put the links either up in the banners or down in the description. Like I said, I'm the Fantastic Fuzz, and hope you'll keep coming back for more videos in the future. And just keep an eye out for them. If you like this video, just press subscribe to get your notifications. And until next time, laugh it up, fuzzballs!